Good morning. It is Thursday, March 9th, and I'm going to be doing a drive with FSD beta version 11.3.1 to my company's office in Edina, Minnesota. I've done this drive with pretty much every other 10.x build, so I'm going to be comparing apples to apples. I will not be fast forwarding through the highway portion this time though, because obviously version 11 brought some pretty big changes with it, including single stack, which replaces the old legacy Vision Autopilot stack. So there's been a lot of good improvements that I've recognized so far in my previous videos, hoping to recognize some more of those today. But the first 12 minutes of this route or so will be just all city driving, and you have seen this before, so we'll be comparing and looking for any changes there. FSD continues to do a really good job with turning on to 37th Avenue here, which is a pretty tough, unprotected left turn. It really did struggle in the previous 10.x builds, like I'm talking like before 10.10 or so, before they started focusing on Chuck's unprotected left turn. After they did that work, it nails that unprotected left turn even when it's really busy with traffic every single time. So, alright, it looks like we're going to get into the wrong lane here again. So I'm going to see if it figures itself out. Yeah, it's not going to. So I am going to record a message here. Car keeps entering right turn only lane when it should be in the left lane to go straight. So I really hope those voice snippets will be used by the team. This has been a regression that I've recognized. I was really hoping that would be fixed in version 11, but alas, it's still there, unfortunately. So for whatever reason, the car still wants to get into that right turn only lane when we're trying to go straight here. So that definitely creates some challenges for us, and it's pretty frustrating because honestly, this drive would more than likely be a zero disengagement drive had it not been for that intersection, which I have to cross to go this way, which I do quite commonly. So keep hoping. Hopefully in a minor release they'll fix that behavior. I'm not sure where the disconnect is. My suspicion is stale map data, and for whatever reason, at one point with the 10.69.3, the car would do the right thing for the first time ever, and then it's regressed since then back to what it was before. So it seemed like before maybe when they added that deep lane guidance module, it actually did the right thing. But yeah, no longer, after some further tweaks, it looks like it no longer does that. So. Okay, not as bad as previous releases. That used to be a really slow one. I'm fine with the slow turning behavior as long as it just continues that pace that it picked when it starts the turn and doesn't like chop the throttle. So that was pretty good there. No complaints. And this is a pretty wide stretch of road here, ample parking on both sides. And, I'd say, 4 or 5 releases ago, before the 69 builds, the car would stay way too far to the left. It seems to continue to kind of stay to the right half of the road. And as the road shrinks here, it actually looks like it's doing a little bit better job, if anything, staying more to the right. So. Okay, so it stopped a little past the stop sign there, and then it's kind of just lagging out a little bit of hesitancy on the throttle, kind of back and forth there. I am going to report that one. That's just too slow for my liking. Again, we had right away. The car's got to be more assertive at these intersections. I know, I'm sure they've dialed the safety up here and cautiousness, but I really wish it would be more aggressive and let us decide, when it's being too much. Most of my interventions with the car are in the form of throttle inputs where it's just hesitating way too much. It's not making decisions fast enough, and then that leads to obviously frustrated drivers around us potentially if I don't do that. So I know some of them out there say, oh, zero intervention drives and zero disengagement drives. Well, I'll be honest with you, I do a lot of throttle inputs quite often. So it's one of the things I'm fine doing because I like testing software like this, but it's still one of the big limitations. It's still there with V11. This isn't the silver bullet update, that many are looking for, but like I said, we'll get to the highway portion here in a minute, and there'll be a lot of good things to reflect on. This route was actually problematic for me for the longest time once we get on the highway portion, because there again is still map data. We have a lot of that around the Twin Cities here, and that's created a lot of routing problems with Navigate on Autopilot, where it tries to make incorrect lane changes. It just do the wrong thing, right? And I saw some evidence yesterday that now on the highway portion, stale map data is being ignored, which has me excited that this potential route is going to net us some good results. So I'm going to take over here, because there is a lot of bad potholes. Not the car's fault, but I am going to tell them about why I disengage it here. So, avoiding potholes. And I'm actually going to disengage again here. There's a big pothole. Also, you can't really avoid some of these, it seems like. Avoiding potholes again. I do love this voice feature, though. This node feature is super cool. I really hope that they're doing some NLP in the back end and translating this and then, obviously sorting in their bug system. So a lot of braking input there as we came around the corner. Haven't seen that in honestly a long time. So, possible regression there. Again, I just kind of confirming my suspicion here that, and I'm going to report that, that this is the first public build, they really dialed up the cautiousness. It seems like this build's more cautious than 69.25.2 was on the same route. You can go back and watch a video that I did of this route. I'll put it in the description below, but just from what I've seen over the last couple days, the city portions of V11 seem to be a step backwards, if anything. Very similar, but seemingly just too cautious. Good job staying to the right of those markings there. This is always kind of a tricky spot. And again, there's a ton of potholes up here. We might have to disengage. I'm going to try to at least initiate the left turn before we do it. If they're not too bad, I'll just let it go. But as you can see, our roads are in really bad shape. Alright, so again, we are clear on both sides, and the car is just taking way, way too long. So, to me, that's not really useful when the car just sits there with nobody on our left or right. So while it nails that first unprotected left turn on 37th Avenue at the beginning of this video every single time, this is a very similar turn, to be honest with you, in terms of, occlusions and whatnot. It's literally very similar, and yet the car just treats them completely different and hesitates way too much. So again, I'm going to report that. Again, the throttle interventions seem to be the most annoying behavior that I've recognized with FSD every time I use it, where it visually doesn't show any traffic. So why it waits long as it does. I mean, we had 3 cars behind us, so I wasn't going to let it sit there another few seconds before it made up its mind. So again, it cuts it a little tight there. They did change this road up not too long ago. Again, no car was there. The few times I've made that turn where no car is there, it's done the right thing and gotten over. Yeah, let's see if it's going to go around this bus here. Yeah, I'm not liking that behavior, so I disengaged there. And we had nobody behind us, so it was safe to go around that side of that bus, but I didn't like the back and forth there. I think it had the right idea right off the bat, where it was going to go around the bus, and then it kind of hesitated, then it wanted to go again, and I would rather just keep going, because you don't know if somebody's going to walk around the bus then, or whatever. The back and forth decision making, again, something that they need to work on still. So, again, the city portion so far of V11 is not, to be honest with you, super impressive. It seems very similar to 69.25, and in some cases way more hesitant than I was used to before. So all right, good job with that left turn there. That's continued to be a good area of success for FSD. from the recent build. So again, a little bit of confusing lane markings here. We need to stay to the right. Let's see if it does that. Again, doing a great job. It's, you know, seesawing a little bit here in the wheel, but not much. It's probably the best it's ever done there. And then it's getting over to the left yellow line. This is the first time it's done that. So, you know, finally some improvements we've recognized on this route. It usually always would miss this entrance ramp and try to take the HOV entrance ramp portion there, and that'd be the wrong thing because this is me driving by myself. And then aggressive on the acceleration here. Good detection of the flashing yellow lights. No hesitation there. So again, some really positive behavior there. So, you know, hope that you know, things will continue to improve with future V11 builds here. So, but now we're on I-94 for a little bit here, and then we're going to eventually be getting on I-394 West, which will take us to Highway 100, which will then pretty much take us to our destination. So a little bit of highway transitions coming up here. The transition from 394 to 100, and I'll call this out before we get there, is definitely a tricky one, and one where the previous stack would fall down. So looking forward to hopefully seeing some improvements there as well. You'll see there, it's still a little bit interesting on why it's canceling lane changes. You see how it's kind of going back and forth there. I'm going to report that as well. I know I only get like 7 reports per drive before you're on a storage space, but it still seems to require some tuning, you know, with the lane changes. The logic is still, it gives up too quickly, and it's not assertive enough, right? Those are two things I hope Tesla kind of address in future builds. Still an improvement over Navigate and Autopilot, and how hesitant and cautious that was. It was basically useless in my opinion. A lot of times I've been making lane changes manually because they had a tough time finding gaps and, you know, taking them. But, you know, for the most part, where we're at now, even with some of the limitations of this current build, still a couple steps forward compared to the old stack. A little bit of false slowing there. I'm not sure what that was detecting there as we went in the shadows. I'm guessing just a light transition. We got another one up here. Let's see if it does it. No slowdown there, so that was interesting. Could have been just because we were in a slight turn going through the shadows, so it wanted to slow down a little bit. Again, it wasn't like jamming on the brakes, so... Alright, so kind of a big speed transition here. We're going from 60 to 30. It's seemingly taking some steps to slow down here. Let's see if it slows down a little more. Slowing down later, which I honestly like. With Navigate and Autopilot previously, it would make big 5 mile per hour jumps, if not more, maybe 7 mile per hour jumps, as it would step down. And it would come into that corner doing like 30, but it would do it 200 yards back, you know? And if you had cars behind us, that's not human-like. This is way closer to what humans would do. I didn't have to give it one throttle intervention throughout that entire section. So another enhancement with version 11 that needs to be highlighted is the smoother rate of deceleration when you're approaching, like, you know, transitions like that. It's way smoother. It plans later, but it does it in a way that doesn't sacrifice comfort. So I guarantee if I had a passenger, they would say the same thing for those sections there. That was really smooth. So good stuff there. So about a mile up the road here is where we've had some problems, again, due to stale map data, where the car thinks it needs to be over too far to the left, where it would miss the exit. I'm sorry, too far to the right, which would miss our correct exit, and it would go back and forth and kind of fight itself. So I'm very curious to see what FSD does here. So eventually this road will fork, and there'll be 2 lanes on the right, and then 2 lanes on the left. We want to be in the 3rd lane from the left. So this one right here. We want to stay in this lane. We don't want to go back and forth now, because that's what it would do before, and that would be wrong. So again, it's trying to fight itself. You see the turn signals coming on, like I saw in my drive yesterday. Same behavior, but you see that it stays, it does the right thing. So to me, that's telling me that the deep lane guidance module that's now present in the highway portion of the code is now basically negating the bad map data and saying, no, I see that there's 2 lanes here, I want to be in this lane, and overrides that, which is awesome. So hopefully at some point they remove the turn signals. Maybe I can use this data to update the maps now and avoid that initial turn signal there, because I still think you need maps. But anyways, here's the tough part here. Let's see if it gets over. May have to disengage here. Yeah, it's going to miss this, so I'm going to slurp over there and just take over. FSD was going to miss the interchange. So that one continues to be tough. I had another one very similar to that, where it's a very tight clover leaf. You have to get over almost immediately and signal before. And the car just doesn't plan ahead fast enough there, or far enough in advance. So it would have missed that exit, no doubt. And because I have somewhere to be, I'm not going to let it do its thing there. So the tight clover leaves still seem to be a gap that the new stack hasn't yet solved. I'm confident they can get that figured out once they kind of, dial back some of the cautiousness of this code. I mean, the foundation's there. For the first time ever, I was able to get through that section of Highway 100 without having to, disable lane changes and, make sure the car's in the right lane. I mean, that's been a problem for 3+ years. So there's been some big progress in this update that I definitely don't want to underscore with my, being critical of, certain things here. Overall, like I said, this entire build is 3 steps forward, maybe 1 step back on the city driving, but positive everywhere else. So, but yeah, still room for improvement, no doubt, and I'll continue to kind of report on that, as we get more minor releases of version 11. We are suddenly braking for no reason there. So, not sure what that was detecting. If it was that car on the right that was exiting, not quite sure. Definitely going to report that. That's honestly the first case of, phantom braking that I've seen, that I would classify that as phantom braking, where it's like significant reduction in speed. It's not like pinning the brake like I've seen in the old vision-based autopilot code, but it definitely saw something it didn't like there. Would love to know what it was. From what I could see, it wasn't visualized on the screen. But yeah, that's kind of disheartening. But again, this is the first public version of version 11 here, so I expect there to be bugs and some tuning. Maybe it was the snow. There's light snow falling right now. Maybe it freaked the camera out. And then again, the second time we've seen that now, as we approach the underpass there, it slows down just ever so gradually. So again, kind of confirming that Tesla's being very cautious. If they have any concerns about visibility, where vision-based autopilot would have went through that section without any hesitation. And here's an interesting bug there. You saw the visualizations just go away for the lane markings there, but you saw the blue tentacle, or whatever you want to call it, was still visible. So I've seen some weird issues there. I know others have reported this as well that have version 11. They've said that the visualizations on at least MCU2 cars has been a problem. So, and again, a little bit of slowing there as we before we came over that hill. Again, confirming again what I've already thought, that this is a very, very cautious first version. I expect them to dial up the confidence a little bit more, and hopefully some future minor releases here. Hopefully by .2, some of these little behavioral traits are going to be gone. Because then I think it would be another solid step forward if we could do that. More than 3 steps, in my opinion. So I just switched the autopilot settings to chill. I want to see if it gets over to the right lane here. It doesn't seem to have an impact on staying out of the passing lane. So I may dial it back to assertive. So this doesn't look like to be doing anything, but I'll let it go maybe another half mile just to see if it makes a change here. And the snow's starting to really come down here, but it's not accumulating yet. It doesn't seem to be bothering, FSD yet, so something to keep an eye on. Alright, I'm going to go back to assertive. And so in previous builds with vision-based autopilot or navigate autopilot, the car would try to signal and get over to the far right lane starting at that bridge, which was like 2 miles almost before our exit. So it was way too early. It always wanted to get behind merging traffic, which obviously are moving slower. Never made sense. So now that it's waiting until after that, again, a huge improvement. That will result in a lot less frustration and manual lane change intervention there. So, and then again, you see the lane changes that are automatic are way quicker now with, the full stack FSD. Very, very happy with that. Alright, so we are now going to be exiting Highway 100 South, and we will then be turning right onto Edina Industrial Boulevard. So good job with the transition here, no issues so far. Again, as a high to low speed transition as we come off this here, and what you want to do is shave speed off as you kind of come through these corners if you're trying to mimic human driving. Before the car would cut too much speed, it seems to be doing a really good job here, so again, another potential improvement. Alright, so we have a couple cars on our left here approaching. Let's see, they look to be stopped, so it's going to go for it. Well, that was one of the few times I would say that it's been properly assertive. Those cars were coming to a complete stop, and it recognized that and went for it. Had it hesitated once more, I would have been a little frustrated, but it did the right thing. So, and then here, we're stopping a little short of the crosswalk here. I'm not sure why. This lane does end, so one of the things that becomes tricky here is the car. Let's see what it does. I'm going to let it do its thing here. I might have to take over up here if it doesn't get aggressive enough, because we do run out of road up here. Yeah, it's definitely cutting the throttle a little too abruptly there. And then as you saw, like, we had room to go, so it should have rolled forward. And it refused to do that. And then now we're trying to slow down again. So it accelerates too much. And then I'm going to take over here. I always laugh at those alerts. So, yeah, again, I'm not really thrilled with that last behavior there. I'm going to report that. The car definitely needs to plan ahead a little further. If it sees potentially on the map data that the lane's going to be going away, if it just got over to the left right after making that right turn, we would be in a much better position there. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.